Hi, this is Dev.
I'm Erez, and we're Infected Mushroom.
We're here in our studio in LA, and we're talking about our new plugin Pusher with Waves, and I hope you like it.
In short, it just makes everything sound better. Whatever you put to it, you can really get to quick, better results than the original audio in most cases.
It's an all-around kind of tool that brings our experience into it and saves a lot of time. That's the main goal of this thing with new technologies and technologies that we've been using for years.
If you're watching this, we'll get started in just a second. I'm posting a link in a few different places and figuring all this stuff out, so enjoy the music while you wait. Started in just a second. I'm posting a link in a few different places and figuring all this stuff out, so Alright guys, welcome to the stream. We are going to get started here. If you have any comments, go ahead and leave them in the chat window there. I'll say something here just so you don't feel like you're the first one. Hi everyone. Thanks for watching. Right now all you see is my face, so I know that's pretty boring. We'll get to it. Here we go. Alright, so I have been doing a few videos on Gravit, and you can follow along if you would like with this video just by going to gravit.io. I think what they're creating is really, really fantastic. They are doing a great job. The developing team is doing a great job. I am only involved with them as an artist, as a user. They've graciously invited me to do one of their Twitch streams about a week ago, and that was a blast. Had a lot of fun doing it, and we did Ash from League of Legends. We still have to figure out a time to finish that up because we only got about halfway through. But what I want to show you really is more about vector graphics in general, so stuff that you can really implement in just about any vector graphics application. I just want to give you some tricks and tips and stuff like that. So this is Gravit. Go ahead and check that out if you will. Give you all just a few minutes if you would like to go to gravit.io and create your free account so you can follow along. Once you log in, you'll be presented with a screen like this. Okay, I'm going to be doing a video series that is very comprehensive about getting started with Gravit specifically, but I wanted to just kind of practice for that video series by doing a live stream, and also this might help me include things that will come up, because by watching live, you guys, the viewers, you get to be part of the content. So if there is anything that you guys think of or have questions about, please leave it in the comments, because you will end up being part of the content, not only for this live stream, but also for videos to come. And I thank you in advance for your comments and questions. So let me just give everybody a couple of more seconds here. Gravit.io, that's what we're using today. And I'm just going to give you some tips and tricks for any vector graphics application. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the designer. I can do that by just clicking right up here. It says Create Design. Let me know if the audio is all sounding okay. I might just turn down the music a little bit. It sounds a little bit loud to me, but it might just be me. Okay, so this is what you're presented with when you create a new design inside of Gravit. You basically get a huge list of layout options to choose from just to get you started quickly. You can also input specific dimensions right from the beginning, right up here. You can change the units from pixels to millimeters, centimeters, inches, picas, or points. Very, very powerful. So if you wanted to create something for print, for example, you might want to use millimeters, centimeters, or inches, because those are more commonly used for creating print material. What I want to do is just create a document. I'm just going to use the first one here, Facebook cover. This is one I get asked a lot about because the dimensions are very strange. It's 851 by 315, and I've just had to memorize it because it's such a weird number. But you don't even have to worry about that with a lot of these preset layout dimensions already in here for you. Some of the most common ones that you will come across if you want to create graphics, especially for online stuff. So you've got all your social media stuff, even your Twitch video or Tumblr graphic, etc. As well as web, screen, print, and some other ones here. Really, really handy. Thanks for watching, guys. Please leave any comments or questions in the chat box there. Cool. All right, so I'm just going to pick Facebook cover, and here you go. So if you used any of the Adobe products, this will probably look pretty familiar to you. If this doesn't look like this when you first open it, it might look like this. Okay, so this is just the light skin, and one of the cool things in Gravit is that they've pretty recently added a dark skin, and I prefer that. So under View, you can change that right away, and I do that just because that's my preference. Once you change it, every time you reopen the graphics editor, it will use that skin instead. So I'm just going to change it to dark. There we go. Much nicer on my eyes. Looks great. Check the stream here. Make sure everything's working well. Any questions? Not yet? Okay. Let me just pop over, see if I have anybody on Facebook watching and have any questions. Nope. Okay. We're good. Let's continue here. So in the video series, I'm going to give an overview of like the interface, all the different features and functions and tools, etc. But in this video, those are just going to come up organically, I hope. And I want to kind of create something from scratch, live. And if those questions come up, if anything comes up, hopefully we'll be able to address it in this live stream. Okay, so one thing that I want to do is work with a reference image. So off the screen here, I'm going to go into my Google Photos. I like to use Google Photos because I take pictures of my sketches a lot, and that's what I'm going to use here for a reference image. It's just a sketch, so I'm just going to copy it to the clipboard, and then in here I can just paste it by doing the Control V. So here's our sketch, and we can resize it if we want, and I always hold Shift when I resize things so I don't squash it like this. Don't want to do that. There's a couple of things that I'm going to do right off the bat in here just to make this a little bit easier on my eyes to work with and trace over. So this is just a sketch that I did in my sketch journal. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add an effect and an adjustment. So this is like your layer styles in Photoshop or Illustrator. And I want to add a brightness and contrast. And I'm going to make it a little bit brighter. And up the contrast just a little bit. Just so it's not quite so dark. I also might add, let's see, let's just try an unsharp mask. This is really, really cool. No, that's sepia. Unsharp mask. I'm gonna up the strength and the radius just a little bit. Just a little. Make it a little sharp. There we go. So these are non-destructive effects. I can uncheck them to disable them, which is pretty cool. Okay, so these are some things working with images inside of Gravit. So to zoom in, I can hold down Control or the Alt key and use the mouse wheel, or you can hit Z on the keyboard and get your magnify tool. V is your standard select tool. You can double click images to activate the cropping tool, which is pretty cool, and I'm just going to crop this in a little bit. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, so I just cropped it to exactly what I needed. This is just a fictitious concept. I thought it would be cool for either a gamer tag, like a clan tag, a badge, a patch, or it could be used for a logo for an apparel brand, a game design company, just kind of anything. But I thought it was kind of cool. So the idea is stone paw, and I wanted to kind of create something like a paw, like a bear paw or something made out of stone. So one of the things that I like to do with Gravit when I'm using reference images like this, let me crop that in just a little bit more, is take the transparency or the opacity of the image down just a little bit so it's not quite so stark. Because if I want to use black especially and trace over this, I want to see what I'm doing much more clearly. I also am going to go over here in the layers panel, which is the left hand side here, and lock that image so I don't accidentally select it or move it. And you can, there's two different lock modes. One is just position lock, so I can still select it, but I can't move it. The other one is absolute lock, and this even keeps me from selecting that object. Okay, and that's what I want to do for this. Alright guys, go ahead and share this video with somebody you think would benefit from it. If you're trying to get into vector graphics, this I think will be a great application for you to use because it doesn't require a subscription. It's absolutely free, and it's very, very simple. So I know Illustrator can be very daunting even for somebody who's used Photoshop all their life or for all their career. Getting into Illustrator is a different animal. And so this is something I think is a lot more intermediate, but it's got some really, really powerful features under the hood. So I recommend it. All right, so I've got my image here locked, and I'm going to zoom in on here, and I'm just going to choose one to start with. And I think this one here will be interesting to try. And I've made it kind of cracked and sort of jagged like stonework. And what I'm going to do is actually use the pen tool. And the shortcut keys for everything in here. So under the object here, you can drop this down. Not object, excuse me, sorry. It's shape. All of your shape, all your tools to create shapes are under the shape menu. And you see pen. Pen is the magic tool. It's amazing. So I'm going to select that. And with a pen, you can create line segments, paths. You can make sharp points or curved points, and that's what I'm going to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to get the sort of silhouette of this whole thing just by clicking, and then you see I get a line here for the trajectory of my next plotted point. And so I can click and pull to create curves. And this stroke is usually annoying to me, so I'm going to turn off. And this program calls it the border. Hi guys, thanks for watching. We're using gravit.io. If you want to follow along, check it out. You can just go in another tab to gravit.io and sign up for a free account if you don't have one already. And you can follow along if you would like, or just feel free to watch. Leave comments and questions in the chat. All right, so I'm going to turn off the border just by clicking that eyeball. Boom, it's gone. And I'm going to change my fill color to something kind of obnoxious, just so I can see it a little bit better on top of my image. And I'm going to take the transparency, which is this little wine glass icon. I'm going to take that down a little bit so I can see underneath it easily. And I'm going to continue just tracing around my reference image, which was just my sketch from my sketchbook. And so what I'm doing is clicking and pulling. While I have the mouse held down, the mouse button held down, I'm clicking and dragging out just a little bit to create those curves. And you don't have to make it exactly like your reference image. That's the idea of using a reference image. You can add more detail if you want, or leave stuff out. I want that to be a sharp point, so I just click once. I want that to be a sharp point, so I just click. And then I'll curve that one, so I click and drag. Sort of an uneven kind of stone shape here for the base of my icon or logo, or sort of lots of different uses out of this concept. Okay, get back all the way to the beginning. You'll see a little tiny circle next to the pen. When you click that, it's going to close the path. If you accidentally close it early, for example, let me just do that, and I'll double click. And that ends my shape. So you see here now I can start drawing a new shape. I can go back here, V to select my selection tool, then I'll click on my shape. You can also go right over here and say close path, and it will automatically close the path for me, which is a really nice feature. All right, so now I have this shape. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Alt drag. So holding down the Alt key, I'm going to drag a copy. And I just want to have that over there for something else in case I want to change it or design something sort of off my reference image so I don't have that clutter, that sort of visual noise in my way. I can kind of see it a little bit easier off to the side. But I'm going to continue here, drawing some of the pieces inside the actual paw itself. So I'm going to copy this because we can paste the attributes once we start a new shape. So I'm going to hit P again to go to the pen tool, and let's start by drawing the sort of base of the paw here. Just doing the same thing again. I'm clicking and dragging. Now you see it put my border back on, so I'm going to hit F4. F4 pastes my attributes of the last copied shape, and I'll still be able to see it because I'm on a semi-transparent on my appearances here, so I can see what I'm doing on top of what I already have. I'm just going around, clicking and then clicking to and dragging to create a curved line segment, and then get back to the beginning. And I'll go ahead and do that with these toes here as well. My border's back. I can hit F4 to apply the settings that I like. Of course, you don't have to use pink. I just like to use something kind of crazy and very different from the reference image so that I can see what I'm actually drawing in vectors. All right, there's my paw. And just to zoom out here a little bit, I'm going to select all of these by holding Shift, and I'm going to Alt drag those again. The reason I do this is, one, so I have a copy of my things in case I want to go in here and change anything, change the shape, do some modifications. It gives me sort of this timeline of stuff. I could always go back to this original one if I want to like chop these out, for instance. And I might try that right off the bat, is just Alt drag another copy. And with all of that selected, I'm going to go up here to the merge and hit subtract. And you see everything on top just got cut out, and it's created a compound shape. This is also non-destructive, by the way. If I don't like that, I can just hit split in there and back again. I can also select these still and move them around, and it's still chopping out those paws. But so if I wanted something for like a logo, I need to have sort of lowest common denominator, which is black and white, flat colors. So there's something that might get me to that right away. I'm going to go ahead and copy these again because I don't want just black and white. I want to show you guys some cool tips and techniques for creating great looking graphics with vectors. Vectors are awesome. All right, so in the fill, I'm going to change it to kind of a gray stone color here, maybe in here, kind of a cool gray. I'm going to take my opacity all the way back up. For the paw, I want that to be able to stand out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the eyedropper and grab that color and then open up the fill options and change the way that it adjusts the colors from RGB and alpha to HSB, which is hue, saturation, and brightness. So I can just adjust the brightness without changing the hue or the saturation. And I get this kind of granular control over this, which is really nice. So if I wanted to put this at 80, I can actually just type in and hit enter. I've got an 80% brightness of that same color. Cool. Now let's see, I want to look back at my reference image here. I've got I just did some sloppy kind of cross-hatching because I know I wanted to give it some texture. But one thing I have in here is some of these cracks. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of put those in. And now I'm just going to kind of freestyle using what I already have. I got the shape for my reference image. I'm happy with that shape. I want to add some more details now. So I'm going to go back to the pen tool. And I'm going to add a crack right here. But I don't want it to be like cut out. I want it to add this almost like as a texture. So I'm just going to play around here. We can take our border off because that's quite big. And we can take our opacity down of that shape. And I want to just kind of create sort of a cracky looking shape. Okay, I finished that off. And what I can do now is, with that selected, I'm going to select the pad of the paw, the base of the paw, and I'm going to clip it inside. So up here where the star is, I'm going to clip that shape inside. And there it is. And one of the things is this shape is also semi-transparent. I'm going to raise that up. So I may want to change my color now. Let's select that color. And with that, all of those pieces selected, we'll go back here and change our brightness back to 80. And now that might be too much, so let me take it down a little bit. Right about there, 60. That looks good. All right, so this crack, I can still select it even though it's being clipped. Okay, I just click and then kind of click inside. It creates a group with this clipped inside of it. And what I want to do is give this some depth. And there's a few ways that I can do this. Let's first just try an easy way, and that's with the effects. I'm going to do an inner shadow. So I'm going to choose inner shadow, and let's take the blur down, and I want the shadow to come mostly like if the light was hitting from up here, then it would be casting a shadow down below. I can play around with this, and I believe I can put in decimal points as well. Yep, that's what I want. And let's make sure this is all the way opaque. And I'm gonna grab a color fill here and just change it to something a bit lighter. Same color, just a little bit lighter. And then our inner blur here we can give maybe 0.5. Let's try that. That kind of looks like a crack, but I kind of liked it flat, so I'm just going to do that. Alright, so there's one crack. There's lots of different ways, just like in Adobe. This is Gravit Slowness. Hello, Slowness. Thank you for watching and for the comment. Okay, you see it in the description. Wonderful. Thanks for following along, and thank you for watching. Gravit.io. It's entirely based on web technology, so it runs in any web browser, which means it's absolutely cross-platform and it's free. So if you're trying to get into vector graphics and can't afford Illustrator or the Adobe Creative Cloud or whatever, maybe you just don't like it, try Gravit. It's much more simple and doesn't cost anything. Okay, I keep changing my mind on this, but I'm just going to maybe give it 0.2 on the blur. Let's just leave it at that for now. And maybe instead of a lighter, because it almost looks like a scar, maybe we should make it darker than our base color. Yeah, something like that. Alright, so now another thing that we can do to give this texture and depth is using the clip again. I'm going to go to the pen tool, you know what? Let's use the Bezigon tool. The Bezigon tool is like the pen tool, except it just creates straight lines. And I'm just going to click around here, turn off the border again, and let's change the fill to black and take our opacity or transparency to like 50%. And I'm going to create kind of a shape outside of these, and like kind of on the edges of this of these paws at the bottom here. And this is going to help kind of simulate thickness. And if you'd rather these be curves, you can definitely use curves instead of straight lines, but the whole nature of this is kind of like it's rigid, it's made out of rock, etc. Alright, so all of these I'm going to give an opacity of 35. Let's try that. And they all have the stroke taken off. And then I'm going to clip them inside of the shape of the toe. All of this, by the way, you can see what's happening over here in the layers panel. As I hover over things, you'll see they get highlighted. Okay, so I've selected these two objects. I'm going to hit clip. You see it's clipped inside there. And I'm going to do that again with these two. Clip. And with this one. Clip. Now our background here, maybe we'll give this a gradient. We can do that. So just click on the gradient. I kind of like that. Let's go from dark to light, bottom to top. So now you can kind of see how that looks like stone with a thickness on there. I'm going to do the same thing here on the bottom. I'm a little bit worried. I'm just kind of curious to see what's going to happen because I already have a shape being clipped inside there. So let's make our fill black and let's take that to 35%. I like to think of vectors as like playing with clay because you can always go back in here with a double click or hitting S to use the subselection tool and change these nodes, which changes the shapes. All right, so I'm going to select that and the base shape there and hit clip again and see if it does it what I'm thinking it should do. Yep, it's fine. So now it's clipped inside of our shape. We can move that shape and it moves everything. Perfect. So now we're starting to get sort of this three-dimensional stone piece. I think the base here I want to change, make it just a little bit longer. So I'm going to stretch it just a little bit, like that. Hi guys, thanks for watching. Caitlin, hi, how are you? Thank you for watching. We're using Gravit. It is a free vector-based application that runs in your web browser. You can sign up for a free account at gravit.io. Alright, so now this little crack piece, I'm going to make that a little bit darker, I think. So let's go back to our fill color and we'll just pull down our brightness. And I can just click in here and then use the mouse wheel and pull it down. Roy, hi, how you doing? Have I stopped using Google Drawings now? No, I am still using Google Drawings. Still love it. The Google Drive environment itself is something that I just really enjoy using. It really is sort of like its own little virtual PC with its own suite of applications and file storage. So I use it all the time, and a lot of stuff I have been able to just experiment with, and I've pulled into Gravit, and they actually work really well together. The thing I like about Google Drawings is that you can export PDF and SVG. You can do that here in Gravit as well. You can also import those SVGs. So using drawings is still something that I do a lot of. I still do my vector portraits and stuff in Google Drawings. But this definitely has a little bit more power for creating vector graphics, and I would recommend it for somebody who wants to maybe create logos. Yeah, it's just great. So, thumbs up to Google Drawings. Still use it. Got lots of videos on my YouTube channel about it too. All right, so let's give this another sort of layer of depth. So we got a shadow that's just kind of a cell style shading. And we can also do the same thing with a highlight. And I want to put the highlight, and I'm going to go back to my Bezigon tool, which is B, which is just like the polyline tool in Google Drawings. David, thank you. He says, wow, cool design, dude. Thanks, David. Thanks for watching. Going back to my Bezigon tool, and let's turn off our border. Gravit, if you're watching, I think it would be really cool if the appearance is saved from the last thing you had selected. Roy, you're very welcome. Just a thought, Gravit. If they, rather than always turning the border back on, because that's really annoying. Okay, so to get around that, by the way, I can set my appearances how I would like them. In this case, it's just going to be white, and we do 35% on the transparency, turn my border off. Then I'm going to go ahead and do a Control C to copy that shape. And I don't want to paste the shape, so I'm going to use F4. By the way, under Edit, you can find that. You can paste the style. You see on the right-hand side here, all the shortcuts, which is F4. So the next shape I want to create, I want to have these settings as well. So I can just click F4 on the keyboard. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw the shapes first for all of these. See, my border's back. I'll just hit F4. And I'm going to kind of simulate some texture as well as creating just sort of the edge highlight here. So I can kind of make it jagged. All right, so I've got those, and I just did all the drawing parts first. Then I can select my shapes again, clip it inside, clip it inside, clip it inside. So you don't have to be super careful with this, doing it this technique. All right, so now I've got that little bit of a highlight, like it's coming, like light is coming from the top down. Maybe I'll give each of these paws also a fill color linear gradient. So I can do that all at the same time, but then I'm going to have to adjust them individually or copy my shape attributes and paste them. So all I've done at this point, it's using the same color and it's just added black in my gradient, and that's fine. All right, I'm going to hit copy there. Make sure I have one selected, hit copy. And then make sure I have my base image there selected. Hit F4 and it should paste that. Great. Oh, actually, it suggested all of those just fine for me. I just wanted it straight up and down. Yeah, that's fine. Something like that. Okay. Being able to do gradients, that's something that Google Drawings can't do. And so this is another feature that I like using Gravit for. Gravit or Photoshop or Google Drawings, which do you prefer? That's from David GF. Thanks for your question, David. I like using applications for the application at hand, if that makes sense. So to me, Photoshop is a pixel-based application. I use it for photos primarily. I love using Photoshop for cutting stuff out. It does that very well. And that's what I like to use it for. But I don't like using it for my layout tool. Right? So if I'm doing like print design, I used to use Photoshop for everything, and that's a headache. It's a hassle. It's not the best solution for that. Sure, can you use it for that? Absolutely. You can use Photoshop for web design. You can use it for a ton of different things. But there are things that I think are better. I actually prefer using Google Slides for layout because you can use slides as pages for like a multi-page document, and then you can export that as a PDF with all of those bound together in one file. It just is easy and fantastic. So, all right, it's getting a little bit dark here, I might change my fill here on the back piece, the background, to go the other way. I think that might be kind of cool. Yeah, I like that. And let's see, we need this highlight color. I can click inside there and grab that piece. Go to my B on the keyboard with the Bezigan tool. Did I answer your question, David? I hope so. And F4, paste my attributes. And I'm just clicking around this. You see that I'm going outside the shape because I'm going to use the clipping feature. Another feature that Google Drawings doesn't have. This is not to be a comparison though, because one thing that Google Drive has is its collaborative environment, which is just fantastic. You can create many more things than just drawings and illustrations. I'm gonna do a little bit of editing here, move things around. Okay, this is looking kind of cool. I'm gonna copy everything, so I'm gonna select all my stuff here, alt drag it. Okay, so I continue that sort of lineage of where things were. And I'm going to give this base part some girth, some thickness. Again, with the Bezigan tool. And let's go ahead and paste our attributes. And we don't want white though, we want black. Okay, and there's some pieces here that I want to change, and I can do that just by clicking S or hitting S on the keyboard, and I get that sub-select tool, and I can go back in and modify this. Like I said, just kind of like clay. You know, I can play around with it. I can really shape it to whatever I need. You can also think of it like oil paint. Sometimes you just need to get canvas paint on the canvas. And these shapes can be so fluid and change in so many different ways. Just get them on there. Alright, so I'm going to take that whole thing and clip it. Now we got some depth there on the bottom. And let's do that on the top as well, but with the highlight color. Basically giving this kind of a bevel, but in a interesting way. Right up here at the top, I'm going to let this go off like that. Okay, and then create a new piece for this little cutout. And maybe just have the highlight go like that. Okay, so both of these pieces I can select with this and clip it. That's looking kind of cool. I like it. We can always create more shapes, so let's copy this and maybe do a little chunk that's cut out right here. Paste my attributes with F4, just like that, and clip that. Don't really need to, but... Alright, that's looking pretty cool. I like that. I'm going to select all of these now, hit Control G, put that into a group. And now, the cool thing with vector graphics is we can make it as big as we want. It's infinitely scalable. It doesn't lose any information. It doesn't start to pixelate. It's just paths, lines, and shapes that we can expand. Now, I didn't use any strokes, so we don't have to worry about those not expanding with the rest of it. These are all just shapes. Okay, and so here's sort of my stone version here, right? There's some other cool things I want to show in this stream. I'm going to drag another duplicate. You see that I do that a lot. So I have this sort of story to tell. If this was for a logo, if this was for client work, this is often something that is nice to be able to, I can go back, like before I changed this or before I changed that, and get back to some of those original ideas. So I want to add an effect on this entire group. And you can do that with the effects. And I'm going to add a hue and saturation. Okay, so I'm adding a hue and saturation just like you would on a Photoshop layer, like a layer style. David says, I'm from Spain, dude. You're conquering the Spanish countries. Ha ha ha. How does that feel? Hey, that is amazing. Thank you for watching from Spain. I don't speak very much Spanish, but and I don't even know. I know there's several different dialects, so please don't be offended. But muchas gracias. All right, so with the hue and saturation, I can change sort of the coloring of this with just the hue and saturation. So if I wanted something that was a little bit more warm, like see, this is all kind of taking it to sort of purple. And maybe I want one that's kind of more brown, more earthy, right? So I can do that just with hue and saturation. Really, really cool. And I can zoom out and kind of see now over, like scan over everything. This has been a really fun project. David says, yeah, that was right. David? Or is it just David? Anyway, cool, thank you. My middle name is David. It's good to meet a David. And awesome that you are watching from Spain. So again, I just Alt-drag. You can Alt-drag to create a duplicate, or you can do Control-D. You see that creates a duplicate as well. And I'm going to use some of these alignment tools, line these up here, and just kind of create some options for myself, okay? So I've got this now kind of a medium-sized one, and the hue and saturation copies with those duplicates. So I'll just take that one, make it a little bit kind of purpley, maybe this one more green. So I've got lots of different color options now just by changing the hue and saturation. I don't have to go in and change each individual color. I can just add that hue and saturation on the entire group. And since I just used black and white with the highlights and shadows and just use semi-transparent shapes, everything translates when you do that hue and saturation. It's really, really quick and easy and fun and fast. So there's our stone paw. The other thing that we might want to do is give it a little bit of text. So I just hit T on the keyboard and clicked, and it creates a text object that I can now type in. So I'm going to create this stone in all caps, and let's find a good font for that. I want it to be thick and chunky and actually pretty solid and just kind of generic. So maybe this one. This is the Alpha Slab 1. Okay, so there's that, and I can Alt-drag that as well. Double-click to change it. And I'm going to say paw, stone paw. Okay, same thing. I'm going to select both of those, Alt-drag them. Cool thing you can do with text very, very quickly is just Control-Shift-P. That turns them into paths, just like their shapes, okay? So now these are compound shapes that I can use just as shapes. The reason I duplicated them is I can go back here and edit them as text. These are no longer text. These are shapes. And I wanted to do that so that I could do this. You can drag aside and then hit Shift, and it will snap it to be scaled proportionately. All right, so let's do some editing on this text here. Maybe just grab that color, and I can do that from the fill here. Both of them selected, just grab the eyedropper tool, and let's get this sort of dark brown. There we go. Drag that up. So here we got kind of a cool icon, a cool logo. Stone paw. I like that. There you go, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope that helps. Check out gravit.io. It's a fantastic free vector-based application. It runs in your web browser. Hopefully this also gives you some techniques that you can use in other vector-based applications for creating depth, shades, highlights, shadows, etc. Use that clipping option. It's super powerful. And then grouping things, duplicating things, and the pen and Bezigon tool. Really, really powerful stuff. and this has all been done in a web browser. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys later. Make sure you subscribe for more videos like this. We'll do some more live stuff. I really appreciate you guys watching. Let me just give a shout out, David, Roy, everybody that was in the chat. Kathleen, hello again. Thank you for watching. Or Caitlin. Slowness, hey guys, and thank you again for watching. I'll see you later.